Hey, how's it going, everybody? Shelby Young here from Hampshire Hills Athletic Club for the second installment of Nutrition, Education, and Discussion. We're just going to hang out here for a minute or two just to give some people a chance to sign on and watch, and that way you can post questions if you have them. I got some good questions after the last one, and I'll try to address some of those today, as well as a few of the other things I have on the docket as far as continuing our discussion on nutrition, education, science, um, healthy lifestyle hacks and things such as that. I got one viewer. Let's see if we can get a few more in here. Hello, who's ever there? Some people had asked, I'm not drinking Coca Cola during these, I'm drinking bubbly. This is a seltzer water that doesn't have any sugar or anything in it. It just tends to keep me hydrated during this. All right, we're up to 3. Cool. So let's see if we can get a few more people in here. Wait another minute or so. Once again, if you have any questions that you'd like to pose, that I'm happy to try to answer them live while I'm here. Or if not, I'll see if I can get to them by next week. I got some good questions after the last session last week. Hey, how's it going? So hopefully we'll get another good turnout here. And we're going to go over portion sizes today, how much water to drink. We'll dig a little bit into the science of protein, how much you need, good sources to get it from, good fats versus bad fats. Once again, a lot of this stuff is not going to be a super deep dive on a lot of these topics just because you could teach an entire semester course on almost any one of these. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of the science and then some actionable things that you can work on. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Tina. Uh, all right, we're up to a good number of people here. So we're going to start off talking about using your hand to determine portion sizes here. This is something straight from John Berardi of Precision Nutrition. And so I give all credit to him for this. I think it's a brilliant way and an easy way to kind of adjust your portion sizes for yourself. It gives you a starting point, then obviously you can adjust from there. I'm just going to pull up my cheat sheet here. So the best way to think about this is the bigger person you are, generally, the bigger hand you have. As such, the bigger your portions are going to need to be. So obviously you can adjust if you are a smaller person, if you have hands that are slightly larger for your body than normal. There's different ways that you can adjust with it. But what we want to start off with is, so for protein, you're going to use your palm. So that's, the distance around your palm as well as the thickness of it. So, some people like to say it's a little bit bigger than a deck of cards, which is not a bad way to think about it. So for most men are going to have 1.5 to 2 palms of protein per meal. And that can be from meat, eggs. Once again, we talked about last time, I'm using lentils as a vegetarian vegan protein source. Cottage cheese, non-fat Greek yogurt, that kind of thing are ways that you can do it as well. So then we're going to move on to vegetables. We'll dig into all of these a little bit more as we go along. But so for vegetables, you're going to use the size of your fist. And this is generally for your non-starchy vegetables. So this is all of your peppers, your lettuce, spinach, anything that is not. Hey Tracy, how you doing? Anything that is not a starch. So your starches are going to be your squashes, potatoes, carrots, those kind of things. Does that make sense? So we've got palms of protein, fist size of vegetables. So for your starches, your carbs, and once again, that could be the squashes, the potatoes, sweet potatoes, yams, anything along those lines. You can also put any of your grains into this category. So whether that's oatmeal, wheat, rice, couscous, bulgur, whatever you're using as your main carb source, that you're going to want to have to be what can fit in your palm. So the palm of your hand. So once again, men are usually going to have anywhere from 50 to 100% more than women just because we tend to be larger. Obviously, adjust based on you. So we've got palm size protein, fist size of vegetables, what will fit in the palm of your hand, a handful of carbohydrates. And then lastly, we've got fat. So you're going to use your thumb. So the length of your thumb is your fat. So if you were to stack up a bunch of almonds, whatever will fit as that. Say that you could use olives, mayonnaise, whatever you're doing. That's totally fine. But so once again, for men, 1.5 to 2 thumbs per meal. For women, 1 to 1.5. As always, this is just a starting point. This is just to give you an idea of kind of where you're going to start from, and then you can titrate down from there. So if you're somebody who carries around more muscle mass, then you might need more protein. You might need more calories in general in order to maintain that. If you're a smaller, slighter person, then you're going to need maybe a little bit less than this. But this is just to kind of give you a way that you can eyeball it. That was asked last week about the intermittent fasting. So you can feel free to tune in or look back to last week's channel. But intermittent fasting is definitely an interesting one. Works really well for some people, not great for others. But yeah, we dug into that a bit last week. If you go rewatch that and there's stuff that I didn't answer, feel free to shoot me some questions and I'll try to get to them next week. But so we talked a little bit last week about energy balance, that in order to gain weight, we need to take in more calories than we're using. And in order to lose weight, we need to take in less. That's just basic laws of thermodynamics. Now, the hand size method is a nice way for you to adjust your calories without having to weigh and measure and count everything. I do recommend using tracker apps if you're somebody who has a difficult time with the eyeballing method, if that's not quite precise enough for you. So MyFitnessPal, anybody who's done the Commit to Get Fit 90-day healthy living program through Hampshire Hills gets access to the Genovix tracking software, and you have that for the rest of your life. You don't have to renew every time that you do that. And that's a good way that you can put your food in, and you can also plug in your exercise as well. And it'll determine it. Once again, it's not an exact science, but it'll give you a good idea of how much you're burning and how much you're taking in. A better way to get an idea of how much food you actually need is to get a body fat composition done. Once again, like I said, you can use a bioimpedance scale. We use skinfold calipers here quite a bit. There's dual X-ray MRI. There's the bod pod. There's hydrostatic weighing, and those last few methods are pretty expensive. Hey, Alicia. And those, while they do tend to be more accurate on the whole, once again, you're going to spend a good amount of money, and if you're somebody who's claustrophobic, the bod pod will probably freak you out. If you have any fear of water or drowning, hydrostatic weighing will definitely freak you out. So it's kind of one of those return on investment, and how much is it actually going to benefit you to be super, super precise with your body fat analysis. If you're someone who's a weight class athlete, if you're doing Olympic weightlifting or wrestling or something along those lines, where you need to be more precise of maximizing the amount of muscle you're carrying around while staying under a certain total body weight, then that's something that could be beneficial to you. But otherwise, for most people, a lot of the bioimpedance units and the skinfold calipers are going to be plenty for what you need. And the reason why you want to know how much lean tissue you're carrying around, which again, lean tissue is muscle, organs, bones, basically anything that isn't actually body fat, is that from there we can start to calculate what your resting metabolic rate is. And you can use a MedGem is another way that a lot of nutritionists will do this, which is a unit that you plug all your data in, you actually blow into it, and it gives you a pretty good idea of what your resting metabolic rate is. And what that is the amount of calories you're burning when you're just sitting around. It's the amount of calories that your body needs to just keep you at your current weight. So that's what it is for maintenance. And then you can factor in activity as well. So when you know what your body fat is, hey Billy, then you can start to figure out how much actual calories you need. Because once again, we want to feed the lean tissue. We don't want to feed the excess body fat. If you're somebody who's already very, very lean, very thin, and you're actually trying to increase your total body mass, then once again, you're going to want to bump that up a little bit. There's this method in bodybuilding that a lot of people call bulk and cut. And the idea is that during the bulking phase, you're going to just eat as much as you possibly can. And you're going to gain some muscle. You'll probably also gain some fat, especially if you'd go about it in just a haphazard way of just downing as many calories of anything, sun chips, ice cream, soda, calorically dense things that don't provide a lot of nutrients. Then you're probably going to gain a good amount of body fat in addition to whatever muscle you build, because you're also supposed to be increasing your weight training while you're doing your bulking phase. And then when you cut, your goal is to try to maintain as much of the muscle as you built as possible while losing fat. This can sometimes also be called like the idea of yo-yo dieting in a little bit less deliberate way, because here you're actually trying to like gain and lose, as opposed to the yo-yo dieting usually refers to when you lose a bunch of weight and then you go off the diet and then you gain it back. We talked a little bit about last week that The term diet really just means how you eat, but it's developed this kind of connotation that it's a short-term thing, that you do this diet for a certain amount of time, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever it is, and then you kind of just go back to doing whatever you were doing. That's not a great way to sustain long-term health and weight loss. And if what you were doing got you to a point of being carrying around excess body fat and being unhealthy, then going back to that's not going to help you in any way. The goal is with any diet is that you're either going to build new healthy habits, things that you can maintain for the long run, or you're going to do kind of a reset, a jump start on, maybe it's your taste buds, maybe it's your blood sugar needs to come down. If you're in the pre-diabetic range, then redeveloping your insulin sensitivity and decreasing your fasting blood sugar is going to help with that quite a bit. And so that's where doing more of the short-term kind of cleanses, which is another, well, your liver cleanses. There's so many feedback loops to the body, and there's all this different terminology that gets thrown around. But generally, if you're eating healthy 90% of the time, and a lot of people already know what eating healthy is, or at least they think they do, then you're going to be okay. And that's where some of the flexibility comes in, that if you can get by with 10% junk food, then you're probably going to be okay. You're going to be okay. If the other 90% of the time you're doing really, really well, that 10% is usually going to come out in the wash. If that starts to creep up into 20% or 30%, and it's really tough to measure what that is in percentage wise unless you're actually doing it per meal or per calorie. There's just a lot of different ways to skin this. But once again, so for those of you that missed it, we're going over how to use your palm for portion sizing. Like I said, if that's not exact enough for you, if you're somebody who's really more of a data focused person, then the nutrition tracker apps are a good way to go to give you a better idea of how many calories you're actually taking in. Now, how many calories you're taking in it's easy to mistrack that. And one of the primary ways I see people miss out on kind of hidden calories, the ones that sneak in, are what are you using to cook your food in? So like if you're using butter to grease your pan, or olive oil or something like that, is it okay to triple up on vegetables to fill up and maybe not get as much other components? Tripling up as long as it's kind of on the green vegetable side of things, and you're not intolerant to fiber, that's usually going to be okay. But you want to make sure that you're not deficient in particularly protein. Most people are not deficient in carbohydrates. They're usually taking in way too many. But same thing, if you're like a hard charging endurance athlete or somebody who uses a lot of carbs and you're well carb adapted, then you might be all right with that. But you can only make up so much of one thing from another. There are 9 essential amino acids which make up protein, and you have to do different combinations. There's no complete protein source within vegetables. You have to combine different vegetables in order to make that up. And once again, there's nothing wrong with it. So like red beans and rice gives you all 9 essential amino acids, which is why you see that as a staple of a lot of cultures, like down in some of the Latin countries. You see red beans as rice because it's cheap. You don't have to raise animals in order to get it. And it does provide you with all essential 9 amino acids in order to fulfill your protein requirements. But obviously, if that was all you were eating, then you were going to wind up not getting enough vitamins and minerals. So you really want to try to get in as many different kinds of vegetables as possible, fruits as well. A lot of people are scared of the amount of sugar in fruits, and as long as you're not going way out of whack, like there was a website that was up for a while. It's called 30 Bananas a Day, and it was the idea that you needed to take in 3,500 calories a day just from fruit in order to be healthy. And that's just so far out of whack, I can't even begin to talk on that one. But most people are not going to go that route. I did have a client many years ago who was eating nothing but grapefruit, and he really meant that when he said nothing but grapefruit, that he was eating 14 grapefruits a day. And shocker, his blood sugar went up and he started to gain weight because that's just a ridiculous amount of grapefruit. And I don't know how anybody could tolerate that, but so for every time I say, no, you can't possibly do this, somebody's going to come along and prove me wrong. So it's always best to eat in moderation of a lot of different things. Hey, Calm. Um, so try to once again expand your palate. Now's a great time, especially if you're at home, you have a lot of free time. Look up a bunch of different recipes. Maybe you've always wanted to try to cook eggplant. Give it a shot. Eggplant's great. It's got a lot of different vitamins and minerals, and can act as a different meat substitute. Eggplant parmesan. Although, once again, if you're gonna take a food like eggplant, which is inherently healthy, and then you cover it with pasta and breadcrumbs and a whole bunch of cheese and a sugar-filled tomato sauce, it's no longer healthy. It's like taking that piece of broccoli, putting it in the ranch dip, and just keep licking that dip off of the broccoli. The broccoli doesn't count at that point because all you're using is a way to get more ranch dip in your mouth. Which ranch dip is delicious. That's teach their own. But keep in mind that if you're really, really serious about trying to lean down, about trying to improve your physique, trying to get healthier, then you have to start by cutting out some of the obvious junk. So we talked about some of the ways that calories can kind of get hidden. So whether it's whatever you're using to grease your pan when you're cooking, you have to factor that in. Now, not all of whatever you put on, like if you put a good amount of oil on the pan, obviously not all of that gets absorbed, but you still do need to account for some of it that's going into the food, that's going to be absorbed by the food because you're going to consume that. Dressings is another way that a lot of times extra calories can sneak in. So once again, unless you're actually measuring the amount of dressings or toppings that you're putting on your food, then you don't know exactly what's going in. You're gonna try to eyeball it, which can get you into trouble because a lot of times they're really, really dense, especially if it's a cream-based dressing like ranch or blue cheese. Those ones will definitely add up the calories very quickly because, once again, we talked about last week that fat has 9 calories per gram, and most dressings, whether they're cream or oil-based, are fat-based. So it's going to carry a good amount of calories with it. So that's why whenever we get back to going out to eat, or if you're ordering food right now, they should be putting the dressings on the side anyway because otherwise your food's going to be pretty soggy by the time you get it home. But make sure when you do go back out into the world that you get your dressing on the side. So that way you get to control how much of it goes on there. Because you don't want it to, one, make your food soaked and soggy, but two, you don't want to be taking in a ton of extra calories that you don't need. So let's talk a little bit about hydration, because this is a topic that's kind of changed a lot over the years. They used to say they need to get an ounce per pound of body weight. And now that's kind of thought to be a little bit excessive. Not that, once again, we talked about last that it's only at the extreme ends of the spectrum that if you're getting in way, way too much water and not enough salt, that you get to that hyponatremic state where your body's starting to shut down. That is really, really tough to get to, and you'd have to be taking in a ton of water and not really any electrolytes. For those of you that haven't taken anatomy, every cell membrane in your body operates on a sodium and potassium switch. So there's sodium outside the cell, there's potassium inside the cell, and then they switch places as cellular processes take place, which is why you need to have a balanced amount of sodium and potassium in your diet in order to basically keep your body functioning properly. But the amount of water that you should take in, now they kind of say is about an ounce for every half pound of body weight. So for me, I'm usually around 180 pounds. I'm supposed to be getting in about 90 ounces of water and fluids a day. What can detract from some of that is diuretics. So things that have caffeine in them and other excess stimulants, or if you're taking a diuretic for a heart condition, then obviously you need to keep much better track of that. Again, if I forgot to do my disclaimer, I did at the start of the last video. I am not a medical doctor. If you have any conditions that are affected or exacerbated by your diet, which is going to be a lot of them, make sure that you consult with your doctor or a registered dietitian prior to making any significant dietary changes. Cool, we're covered now? All right. So you can also get fluids in by eating water-filled foods. So things like cucumbers, melons tend to carry a good amount of natural water in them. Not a ton, but enough that, if you're like, I don't really like drinking water, just straight water, and I can understand that can get kind of boring. You might be feeling kind of bloated. Then eating more of those water-heavy fruits and vegetables can definitely help. Once again, also, I don't get paid by these guys, by the way. Hey, but I really dig bubbly and it tastes good. So if you're looking for a way to get some tasty extra water in, go for that. But yeah, if you're somebody who's like, oh, I just drink coffee all day, which I've been in that boat before. Working long hours, getting up early, going to bed late. Coffee is life, as they like to say. Um, then you need to make sure that you're getting in enough water to balance out the amount of the diuretic that you're getting into your system from all that excess caffeine. Also, like coffee has a therapeutic dose, and it's different for every person. Depends on your size, depends on your tolerance levels. Um, but some is good, too much is not, and that's kind of a rule for almost anything really that you can you can enjoy. Just about any kind of food within your diet. There's room for most things. Um, the one thing, and this is something that Tammy asked about last time, was good fats versus bad fats. So we'll dig into that a little bit more next week. But we want to try, I've mentioned about omega 3 and omega 6 fatty acids last week. So omega 3 fatty acids are essential fatty acids. It's usually found in like grass fed beef, wild caught salmon, things like that. You can get it from flaxseed and some other places like that. But it tends to be the anti-inflammatory side of things. Velda had asked about inflammation regarding food. One kind of food that we really want to avoid is anything that has trans fats in it. And the reason for that is they found it has a very, very strong link towards cancer development. So anything that says it has either fully or partially hydrogenated oils in them will contain trans fats. Your goal is to have as little, if not no, trans fats within your diet as possible. So make sure you're reading nutritional labels in order to keep those trans fats down to an absolute minimum. The other one we want to watch out for is the omega 6 fatty acids. Now, omega 6 is essential. 3, 6, and 9 are considered essential within your diet. 9 your body can produce on its own, so you don't have to get it as much for food. But 3 and 6 you have to consume from food. Our goal is to try to keep our 3s and 6s as close to being in balance as possible, and this is where you can kind of make up some of that with fish oil supplements, which next time we'll go into a little bit more about like how to spot a good fish oil supplement. I don't recommend any specific brands because once again it's a liability thing, but you definitely want to make sure that you're getting as high amount of EPA and DHA, which will be written on the label. That like if your fish oil, let's do it now. If your fish oil supplement says 1,200 milligrams on it, and on the back, your EPA and DHA only add up to like 400 milligrams, then that means that the other 800 is just filler. It might not necessarily be anything harmful, but it just means that you're spending extra to get, it's the 1,200 milligrams, cool, but you still only got 400 actually usable milligrams out of that. So you want to try to get something, if it says 1,200, you want to get it something that has more like 800 or 900 milligrams of EPA and DHA combined. It'll give you that number on the back of it. As far as for actually how much fish oil you're supposed to take, once again, bigger the person is going to need more fish oil or more omega-3s in general, not necessarily just from fish oil. But same thing, something to consult with your doctor or a registered dietitian about. The goal is to try to get as much into balance as you can, but things like cooking in vegetable oils, especially at high heat, can cause the omega-6 fatty acids to get higher. So fried foods particularly tend to have a lot of those issues. And I talk about deep fried, like not pan fried, it can. We want to avoid like overcooking foods in general. Like if you're getting those really, really burnt ends on like brisket or beef, things like that. While people like the burnt end, it's tasty, that charring on it. You got to be careful because that can lead towards what they call AGEs, which are advanced glycation end products, and those have also been linked to potential development of cancer. Once again, linked, not necessarily causal, but if it's something that you're keeping an eye on, then you should avoid overcooking food. I think you should avoid overcooking food in general just because it tends to suck a lot of the flavor out of it. But yeah, I'm not a chef. My cooking acumen is nowhere near as well as my girlfriend's. That's why she does the majority of the cooking. But so once again, that's gonna, we got a few more minutes. So we've covered portion sizes, we've covered hydration, we've covered protein, we've covered fatty acids, we've covered inflammation. We've covered a lot today already. So I'll give you guys a little tip on exercising to kind of close out today. The idea that a lot of people have is that, well, well, you see like people coming out of prison and they're super jacked. They've been working out all day because they had nothing else to do. If do nuts have omega 3? Actually, yeah, macadamia nuts and walnuts have higher omega 3 than the majority of nuts. So those are good ones to get in. They do still have some omega 6 in them, but they have a higher omega 3 to them than the others. Peanuts don't have any omega 3s in them because, once again, peanuts are not nuts, they are legumes. So peanuts do not count. So good question. Where was it? Oh yeah, for exercising while you're at home. You don't have to like crush yourself working out every single day in order to see results. We talked about this last time, that I'm a big fan of the idea of consistency over intensity. That if you do a leg day that's so brutal that you can't walk for 3 days, you overdid it. Now, being somewhat sore for a day, 2 days, totally normal, totally appropriate. It'll probably get easier as you go along, especially if you're sticking with the same program. And you can mitigate some of that soreness, which is they call it DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. There's acronyms for everything in the fitness industry. By drinking enough water, stretching, using your foam roller, which you're really gonna hate the first day after you've really kind of beaten your muscles up, but it's definitely good. It will help you feel better quicker. You just got to kind of suffer through it as you go. But you don't have to absolutely crush yourself on your workout every single day. You can get a good hard workout in, and then the next day focus more on just kind of stretching and moving. So if you haven't been terribly active and you're looking to start becoming active, don't burn yourself out by trying to go every day super hard, because you're going to burn out or you're going to get hurt. It's not sustainable. So if you're going from 0, try moving up to 1 to 2 days a week is a good place to start, instead of going like, I'm gonna go 5. If I don't go 5 days a week, then it's not worth it. Who won the race, the tortoise or the hare? Start with a consistent, intelligent plan. What's your best tip for muscle recovery besides the roller and water? My legs are beat. Stretching is definitely going to be key. It's some of us are just more prone to leg soreness. My legs tend to get sore every single time I do a leg day. It's tough. You got to make sure, especially stretch immediately after you're done. Roll immediately after you're done. You can also try doing heating pads, filling a water bottle and freezing it, making it into a little icy foam roller to use on your legs can be a good way to help with that, Trace. That also works really well, especially if you've got issues with like plantar fasciitis. So rolling out the bottom of your foot on a frozen water bottle is a great way to go for that. Obviously, we don't want to like numb the area because we want to promote circulation, because it's during circulation is when your body's going to actually heal. It removes a lot of those excess metabolites, and it helps bring more proteins to the area to repair those muscle fibers that you've just beaten up. So that's the other thing, is making sure you're getting in enough protein after you exercise in order to rebuild all that muscle tissue that you just broke down at the microscopic level, in order to, 1, help you recover and help you get stronger, but 2, also to help alleviate some of that soreness. There are some topical things you can use, like Tiger Balm and stuff like that that can help, but be careful. A lot of those, they're greasy and it can kind of get everywhere. Also, if you're looking to kind of spread your workout out throughout the day, your body doesn't really know the difference between if you do an hour all at once or if you do 2 30-minute sessions or 4 15-minute sessions throughout the day. You can spread it out throughout the day. Especially, I know some of you watching have more free time now than you know what to do with, and you're just trying to not be bored. That can be a little overwhelming, but you can also very quickly lose track of things. So still try to schedule your workouts. Is a tip I give to a lot of my very business savvy clients, that if they don't schedule their workout, they won't get it in. So set a reminder on your phone, on your Google Calendar or whatever, that's going to let you know, like, okay, well, now I'm going to do my 20-minute workout here, or my 30-minute workout, or whatever it is you're going to do. If you need help setting those up, feel free to contact me. You can also look through the Hampshire Hills Athletic Club page. All of the live workouts, which there's anywhere from 1 to 3 a day now, and we might even be adding more as things come along. they're all saved. So you can look through all of those and check out all the offerings from our great instructors. You can also check out my YouTube channel, which has a lot of individual exercises on there. So if you're looking for different progressions, regressions, so that's Shelby Young Fitness on YouTube. But so that's kind of it for today. Again, feel free to shoot messages. I'll try to respond to all the comments that are on here. If anybody has any specific questions that I didn't address, if they leave them after this video ends. But I will be back here again next Monday at 1 p.m. To do more nutrition education and discussion. And I hope you're all enjoying this. I hope you're all getting something out of it. And I hope everybody stays safe and healthy. And hopefully we can get back to normal soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.